Hello dear students, welcome back again. We are discussing about the maxillary artery. So now let me focus on the branches of maxillary artery in different parts. As I told you in the previous lecture that this maxillary artery that we are going to discuss right now, the branches, this artery is divided into three different regions, right? The first part was the mandibular part, then there was the pterygoid part, and then there was the pterygopalatine part, right? So we will see the branches of this artery in those three different parts, right? So let me write my title here that we are discussing about the branches of maxillary artery, right? This is our big title, and what will be the subtitle? Which branches? We are discussing about the branches in which part? Branches in mandibular part. Mandibular part. Clear? Right. Let's start our lecture right now. So the first branch which is present, which arises from the maxillary artery in the mandibular part, are the deep auricular artery. Number one, the first branch, that is deep auricular artery. Okay friends, I will show you all these branches in the diagram. You will clearly learn about all the branches and their location and their supply, right? So this deep auricular artery, auricular means it is responsible to go towards the auricle, means ear. So it enters the ear. This artery enters the ear, right? When it enters the ear, it supplies blood to the external acoustic meatus, right? It supplies blood to external acoustic meatus. Right, very good. So this was the first branch, which is called the deep auricular artery, and this artery is responsible to supply blood to the external acoustic meatus. What is the second branch? The second branch is the middle meningeal artery. Right? Middle meningeal artery. Very good. Right. Let's see about this artery. This artery arises from, we know that this artery is a branch of maxillary artery, right? It is a branch of maxillary artery in mandibular part, right? And when it arises, it goes a little upward and passes through the foramen spinosum. I will show you in the diagram, right? It goes superiorly, right, and passes through foramen spinosum. Yes. Then where does it go? It supplies the bones of the skull and the durameter, right? So we can write here that it supplies blood to bones of skull, mostly in the middle cranial fossa, right? It supplies blood to the bones of skull and durameter. Right, this was about the middle meningeal artery. Clear friends? Then there is the third one, the third branch, the most important branch, that is the accessory meningeal artery, right? accessory, meningeal artery. You shouldn't be intense, right friends, because I will show you the branches. I will show you all these branches in a very simplified diagram. You will love that diagram and you will be soon clear about the branches of the maxillary artery, right? So then there is accessory meningeal artery. This artery it's also a branch of maxillary artery, right? Everyone knows. And when it arises a little apart from this middle meningeal artery, and when it arises, it also again moves a little superiorly and enters into another foramen, which is called foramen ovale, right? So I'm writing here, it moves superiorly, right, and enters in foramen ovale, right? When it enters into the foramen ovale, where does it go? It supplies blood to the floor of the middle cranial fossa, to different parts. Let me write here. It supplies blood to floor of middle cranial fossa, right? This is the first one, floor of middle cranial fossa. Then the second part, which this artery supplies blood with oxygenated blood, is the trigeminal cave, and it also supplies oxygenated blood to the trigeminal ganglion. Right friends? Okay, so these are the parts which this artery is responsible to supply blood. This was about the accessory meningeal artery. Then the fourth artery which arises from this maxillary artery is the inferior alveolar artery, right? Inferior alveolar artery. Clear friends? This is the fourth branch which arises from maxillary artery. Inferior alveolar. Inferior means lower alveolar. Alveolar is referred to the lower jaw. You can say lower jaw, right? So what does this artery do? What is its course? It runs anteriorly and forward to mandibular foramen. I will show you in the diagram, don't you worry guys. It runs anteriorly forward to mandibular foramen, right? To mandibular foramen. Okay, then what does it do? It enters the mandibular foramen and supplies blood and gives off small branches to the mandibular teeth, to the body of mandible, and to the lower lip, also a very small branch, and to the mental region. We will see all these branches in the while we are explaining the diagram of these branches, right? So then what we say, it supplies blood to, let me write here, number 1, mandibular teeth, right? Then the second one, body of mandible, we will see all these branches. Then the third one is the lower lip, a little branch, a very small branch to lower lip. Number 4, to mental region. Mental region. Clear, friends? Okay. These are the branches. These are the small branches which this inferior alveolar artery gives. Then there is a fifth branch which arises in this mandibular part of the maxillary artery, and that fifth branch is called the anterior tympanic artery, right? That is the anterior tympanic artery, right? This is the fifth branch which arises from this mandibular part of the maxillary artery. And where does this artery go? Look carefully, tympanic membrane, right? So this artery passes to the tympanic membrane. It passes to tympanic membrane, right? And it supplies blood to tympanic membrane. It supplies blood to tympanic membrane. Clear, friends? So these are the 5 branches which arises from this mandibular part of the maxillary artery, right, friends? Now let us see all these 5 branches. Let us see all these 5 branches in the diagram so that you will understand clearly these branches, and it will be very helpful for you guys to learn about the mandibular branches of the maxillary artery, right? So I have a diagram here, and I will show you right now all these branches which are arising from the mandibular part of this maxillary artery. Let me focus first of all here, friends. Friends, you can see this one is our external carotid artery, right? And on the way it gives many branches, but we are not concerned with those, right? This is mandible bone, right? This is our mandible bone. Okay, we know this. This is our mandible bone. Now let's see carefully. While this external carotid artery is going up, it terminates into 2 important branches, right? I had told you that this external carotid artery terminates into 2 important branches. This one is maxillary artery and this one is superficial temporal artery, right? So one of the 2 terminal branches, or the first one is the maxillary artery. So this one is our maxillary artery. Now look carefully. I had told you in the previous lecture that maxillary artery terminates at the neck of the mandible, right? This is our mandible bone and this part is its neck. So it terminates at the level of the neck of mandible, and then it goes forward, right? And then it goes forward. Very good. Now let's see the branches. Okay, this part of this artery, right? This is its mandibular part, right? And when it goes forward, then it becomes the pterygoid part, and when it further goes forward, then it becomes the pterygopalatine part, right? So first of all, we should learn the branches which are present in the mandibular part. Clear, friends? Now look carefully. Here 2 small branches separate, right? As you can see here, I'm drawing the first 2 branches. I had told you that the first branch is the deep auricular artery. Clear, friends? So deep auricular artery. Okay. This one is our deep auricular artery. Deep auricular artery. Clear, friends? Okay. Here is another small branch which arises from this artery, this small branch, and this second branch is called the anterior auricular artery. Sorry, anterior tympanic artery, right? This is anterior tympanic artery. Very good. Look carefully. Up to now we have discussed only two branches, the deep auricular artery and the anterior tympanic artery. Now let's move forward. There will be middle meningeal artery, right, friends? At this point, from this maxillary artery, an artery arises which moves up, right? I had told you which moves up. You can see here, this is middle meningeal artery. I had told you that this artery moves up, goes superiorly and passes through the foramen spinosum, right? Look carefully. This artery has gone and passes out through foramen spinosum, right? This is our artery which we are concerned. This is middle meningeal artery. This one is the middle meningeal artery. Clear? Very good. Then another branch from this maxillary artery arises, and this branch also goes, I have told you, goes superiorly and passes through the foramen ovale, right? Look carefully. This artery is going up and is passed out of the foramen ovale, right? This artery is the accessory meningeal artery. This is accessory meningeal artery, right? Very good. Now let's name these. This is for foramen spinosum, right? Foramen spinosum, right? And this one is foramen ovale. Foramen ovale, right? Very good. So this was the middle meningeal artery and this is the accessory meningeal artery. And if we go a little forward from this part, inferior alveolar artery arises, right? It goes forward. This is our inferior alveolar artery. Look carefully, where is this artery going? I have discussed about it here. It goes anteriorly and forward to the mandibular foramen, right? Look carefully, this artery is passing through another foramen and this foramen is called the mandibular foramen, right? And here it comes, when it enters the mandibular foramen, so I am representing it as dotted line because this artery is running inside this foramen, right? And this foramen is the mandibular foramen, right? So when it enters like this, it gives off branches. I had told you that this artery is responsible to supply blood to the mandibular teeth, right? To body of mandible. So this artery gives off branches like this, right? This artery gives us small branches, right? And then it comes out through mental foramen, right? This is our mental foramen. And it gives a branch like this to the, I had told you, to the lower lip. And this artery is the mental artery. It supplies blood to the mental region. Clear, friends? So this is our inferior alveolar artery. Clear, friends? And one important branch, another important branch that this artery gives is to a special muscle which is called the monohyoid muscle, right? So from here, posterior side to the posterior side, a branch separates from here and it goes posteriorly to another special muscle here, and this artery is called the monohyoid artery on the medial side of this mandible, right? So this artery is the inferior alveolar artery. This is our inferior alveolar artery. Clear, friends? Okay, and this artery is the mental artery. Mental artery. Right? This foramen is the mandibular foramen. Mandibular foramen. Right? And this foramen through which this inferior alveolar artery exists, this foramen is called the mental foramen. Mental foramen. Right? And this artery is the monohyoid branch. Let me write here as monohyoid branch. Right? These are the incisive branches to incisive teeth. Incisive branches, right, to incisive teeth. Clear, friends? And another thing, this artery, in some cases, this artery is responsible to supply a little blood to the tongue, so that's why it also gives a very small branch which is called the lingual branch. But anyways, I'm not going to mention that also here, right? So these were the branches in the mandibular part of the maxillary artery. The first branch was the deep auricular artery, then there was anterior tympanic artery, right? Then there was middle meningeal artery, then there was accessory meningeal artery, and then there was inferior alveolar artery. So how many branches total? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 branches, right? And these are the sub branches which this artery, inferior alveolar artery gives, right? So these are the branches in the mandibular part of this maxillary artery, right? So we discussed about the mandibular part arteries. Now in the next lecture I will discuss about the pterygoid branches of this maxillary artery. Friends, if you like our lectures, it's a humble request that please subscribe our channel, share our videos with your friends, and if you have suggestions for us to improve our lectures, please write in the comment section to us. Thank you so much.